Then a left turn and a left downwind. Cessna over the threshold, coming up on the white dot, at or beyond the white dot, left turn first available. I got a high wind coming up on about a half-mile final, clear to land at or beyond. Traffic on the left face, you're following a Cessna down low off your left. Square it up just a little bit, and then we're going to get you in. Start your descent, though. Start your descent on the base. Traffic on final, give me follow on base. Base traffic, start turning toward the numbers now. High wing coming up on quarter-mile final, take it all the way down to the green. Cessna taxiing on the green, expedite down to the next hard surface. Get me some speed. There you go. Go, 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 go fast. This is going to be good. I got traffic on a mile final. You're following traffic ahead and to your right. High wing coming up on the threshold. Take it all the way down to the green dot.
5 Charlie Sierra, 2 mile final.
A mile final, turn north, and we're going to just make you, we're going to bring you back around. Jet traffic's coming up on about a mile and a half final, runway 9er clear to land.
Okay, all right, let's listen up, guys. If you're on final for runway 9, I want you offset to the left. I got a jet that's landing on runway 9. The jet's cleared to land runway 9 if you can make it. If not, just continue straight ahead. It looks like you're going around for the jet. That's fine, that's fine, that's fine.
Oh, we had one right in front of us, sir.
Dragger. Let's see. What we got? A tricycle. Tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tricycle, put it down. Tail dragger, down to the green dot, then a left turn. Short final here. You clear land on 9 all the way to the white dot. Go down to the white dot. Find somebody to follow out here. Canard, just come to the runway, and I might have to just send you around. That'll be fine. And for the jet, you just want to stay in this pattern, or you want to go back out for an instrument approach?
Stay in a pattern, Charlie Sierra.
All right, just stay with me here for a minute. And my tail dragger, let's see, over the numbers, go down to the green. And Canard's going to have to go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. Canard, go around. And my high wing here over the runway, keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. Do not descend. Do not descend. You got a fast guy behind you. Do not descend. There you go. Keep it airborne. Keep it airborne. As soon as the guy behind you gets slowed down, I'm going to put you down. So keep it airborne. The one that just passed the white dot, make a left turn on the hard surface. All right, my high wing tail dragger, you can put it down now. You can put it down now. And Charlie Sierra, let me get you about a mile off. Let's see, Charlie Sierra, I lost. There you are. Make a left-hand turn. I'll try to resequence you here on the downwinds. We'll see how it looks. Short final, you're clear to land runway 9 on the white dot. Clear to land on the white dot. There you go. And the tricycle left on the hard surface and follow the flagman. Welcome. Thanks for being part of the show. And let's see, just find somebody to follow out follow on the final, and as you get close to the runway, if it's not going to work, we're going to send you around and then try to re-sequence you. Now, who else got sent around that's not back on the downwind? The Canard?
Yeah, Canard.
All right, Canard, there's a Gulfstream up there that went around too. I just lost sight of him, but you're going to make kind of a left-hand turn and stay low. I think Charlie Sierra, what's your altitude?
3,200.
Okay, that'll be fine. Just maintain VFR. I don't know what else is up there above you. Probably most everybody's down here, so just make a left-hand turn. We'll try to get you back here.
Canard's got the jet in tight.
Okay, the RV, maybe an RV-10, whatever, you're on final. Keep your speed up and go all the way down to the, aim for the green dot for me. Actually, keep your speed up. There's a guy behind you. Aim for the green dot, and I'm sure that's plenty of room for you to land on runway 9. You're clear to land on runway 9. Number 2, you're going to go down to the white dot. Follow the white dot. Actually, you know what? That's 1,500 feet. You're going to land at the white dot. The spacing looks adequate here. 2 guys on final. You're kind of tight there. Keep each other in sight, and you're going to aim for the white dot. If it's not going to work, we'll come up with a plan B. We might have to send you around. The second guy behind you out there in about a 2-mile final. Are you slow enough to be able to follow that guy in front of you? You need to go around.
Yeah, follow.
Well, I probably shouldn't ask that because I had about 5 guys answer me, so I should know better than that after 35 years, you would think, right? All right, so let me see. The guy who's number 1, it's number 1. What kind of airplane is he? An RV type. All right, RV type. Keep it airborne for me. Keep it airborne. And I got a fast guy behind you. The number 2 guy over the trees there. Go ahead and put it down on the numbers. Put it down on the numbers. My first guy just coming up on the numbers at the over the grass at the numbers. I want you to keep
T-minus 1 minute and counting.
Hello.
Hello, everybody. Okay, first things first, I should probably introduce young Bev Reardon down there, bottom left on my screen at least. Bev is a stunt Johnny for tonight. Bev started her aviation career on one of those paramotory type things, I think they're called. No, without a motor, parasail. Parasail, and I read a little bit about it. I think she kind of cracked it after a bit of a slow start, and then cracked some other stuff when she took off into an earth bank. So struggling afterwards to do much of that running stuff, I guess, decided to have a go at gliding, which was amazing, other than the fact that someone then ran over a foot, ankle or something else with a glider and then broke that. So moved on, I think, from there. Oh, no, sorry, there was a microlight in between, wasn't there? Or was the microlight after the gliding? There was a microlight. No, there was a Cessna. There was a Cessna, the mighty Cessna after the gliding. That looked like good fun. And then from there, it went to a Eurostar. No, not a Eurostar. Yes, a Eurostar. Yeah, a Eurostar, which I think, as far as I could tell, hasn't actually attacked you or done any damage or anything so far, and is managing to survive. Is that right? About right?
That's absolutely correct.
Very good.
Can I just clarify? When you say that Bev took off into a bank, you mean like the grassy, soily thing, and not NatWest, don't you?
Not NatWest, no.
Okay, yeah.
No, because that would be. I can't think of anything clever to say, like not an armed robbery, a foiled. It could be a foiled robbery.
Oh, yes, very good.
Didn't have much time to think about that one. Anyway, so that's Bev. Everyone knows Annabelle and Dave, obviously, and me. So, right, what do we do? Quick little bit of, as you know, you probably don't know, actually, when Ed's here, normally I do the pictures and Ed does the comments, but as Ed's not here, I'm going to do the pictures and I'm going to have to get Annabelle, Dave, and anyone else to do the comments. So if you see a comment that you think's good, click on it, highlight it, we'll talk about it. If you see a comment that is slightly dodgy, and we did have a couple this afternoon before we went live. So if you see any slightly dodgy ones, don't highlight those, just ban them straight away. No mercy. Right click, ban, bye. Good. Let's move on. Let me just get myself back here. Yes, so thank you very much to Sky Demon for supporting the live stream. And here is Sky Demon's weekly tip, all about measuring things.
Hi, I'm Tim from Sky Demon. Welcome to this week's top tip.
If you regularly fly to visit friends at farm strips, or you want to check out your forced landing options somewhere, you might want to measure features on the ground. Here I'm going to open the What's Here menu for Jim's farm and go to Aerial Photography. Once the photography is loaded, you can explore it and then press the ruler button at the top right. Touch somewhere on the map for the first point, then touch again for the second point, and a ruler appears. We can see this field is about 545 meters across. You can drag the ruler around to measure anything you like on the ground. When you're done, just press the ruler again.
For our full user manual, go to skydemon.aero and choose Help and Support.
So is Jim's farm actually a place?
I wondered that when I was watching the video yesterday or whenever it was, and I thought, I'm not entirely sure. I just before we move on to Simon, I just wanted to make a comment. In the comments, we were talking about it being, or I was talking about the fact that it's been raining non-stop for bloody ages. And then along comes Jane Gifford, going, advantage of 40 degrees centigrade, you don't need to heat my water as the sun does it for me. Plus free electricity during the day. Jane, don't rub it in. That's like, I'm happy for you, but keep it to yourself.
Right.
Share it.
That means it must be time for Simon. And the weather.
Simon. Let me just do this. Put Simon to the top where he belongs. There you go.
Hey, how are we doing? Yeah, you can dream on about 40 degrees in the summer and sunshine, can't you? How dreadful is it out there? I'm blooming fed up with this. Can I just have a moan? I'm cold and I'm wet and we got low cloud and I'm fed up of it. So there you go. That's your weather for this weekend. Done. Gone. I'm out of here. I'm off to Spain. No, not really. Sunday's going to be your day, so we can be quite quick about this one tonight because there's Friday and it's just going to be persisting down all day long, basically, across many parts of England and Wales and Ireland. Some really heavy showers, some cunims in there as well. Scotland looking a little bit better, but, you know, I'm just being hopeful there, really. Eastern parts of Scotland, seeing a few showers. Western parts of Scotland, probably looking a little bit better tomorrow, but generally it does look awful. Saturday, still got low pressure in control. This front kind of just dangled through Northern Ireland, through Wales, through the Midlands, bringing cloud, bringing some outbreaks of rain with it. You see not much showing on here in terms of rainfall forecast, but this is more Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon deteriorates. So if you want to go flying central southern parts of England on Saturday, the morning is the time, because we've got further heavy showers developing into Saturday afternoon. Much of central eastern Scotland basically ruled out for much of the day. Bases are going to be 1,000 feet or below. Northern England may be a little bit better. I'm hopeful. Let's bring some positive news in. Hopeful that northeastern parts of England probably are faring better Saturday afternoon, and it may well be actually that southern parts of England as well aren't that bad. More passing showers rather than the heavy and thundery stuff further north. That's Sunday. Now, Sunday is looking a little bit better. I still think lots of cloud around. I still think bases probably of a couple of 1,000 to 3,000 feet, tops 10 to 12,000 feet. Wouldn't rule out an odd shower here and there, but generally it looks a better sort of day. But even on Sunday afternoon, we may get an odd, heavier shower developing. So I think my 2 times for this weekend are going to be Saturday morning, and I think probably Sunday sort of mid-morning through till early afternoon look to be the best picks for the weekend. Light winds on Sunday as well. So what could you do if you came to Aviation Weather School? Well, you could probably look a little bit further ahead than the weekend and start to pick out a few weather windows, because next week, towards the end of next week and next weekend, consistently is shown as being a little bit better. Don't say it too loudly, but we might get high pressure building in, but I don't want to say it too loud because it'll destroy it. But yeah, towards the end of next week. It's the sort of stuff that we look at Aviation Weather School. My next Aviation Weather School online course is on the consecutive Tuesday evenings of the 12th and 19th of March. It's presented live online by me. You'll have a fab couple of evenings entertainment of weather, and you'll be able to fly more at the end of it as well. Go to weatherschool.co.uk to book your place now. Right, there we go. I'm going back under the covers again, I think, with that forecast.
Okay. Thank you very much, Simon.
All right. See you next week, folks.
Hopefully see you next week. We'll mark you on whether it's going to be nice or not next week.
Yeah. I'll go and get my boat out again.
See you soon.
Okay, question of the week. Do you have PMD? If not, why not? Questions, please.
There you go.
There's no one out that doesn't have one yet, I've been told. So, are you already a club member? And if not, why not? For just £5 a month, you can get loads of member benefits, including the member-only Sky Streams on a Wednesday. You get access to monthly webinars, and the next one is coming up on the 12th of March with Dr. Frank Burton. Frank's going to be talking to us about how to keep fit and flying. I'm really hoping that there's no lycra involved in that. Remember, if you've missed any webinars, they are available for members on catch-up. Club members also get free landings. In March, we have got Straven, Spano, Wickham, Carnarvon, and Blackpool are offering 40% off landings or free landing with a fuel uplift of 50 litres.
Excellent. Excellent. That's from tomorrow, isn't it? Although I don't suppose many people are going to be using them tomorrow, if what Simon says turns out to be true.
Or Saturday.
And I forgot, so just a couple of other job benefits here, because as Dr. Frank Vuton is coming along to tell us healthy, it's probably a benefit that it might help to keep you alive longer. Membership of the club could keep you alive longer. That's not
right.
If it doesn't, you can get a refund. And do us all a favour. Apart from joining the club, please click like and subscribe on this YouTube video. That would be jolly nice, jolly helpful for us, which would be a good thing. Right, it must be time for some news. So, Dave, I think you're kicking off the news.
Yeah, I am. Cost sharing. Today, the CAA published a report summarising the responses from the consultation it held at the end of last year. The consultation was limited in this particular case to how cost-sharing flights should be advertised. Well, it's an overwhelming response from pilots saying, hands off, don't touch it. We like it the way it is, in terms of the advertising at least. The key question that they asked was, do you agree that the advertising element of the current cost-sharing regulations should be reviewed and amended. 83% of pilots who responded said no. Respondents went on to say things like the CAA's proposed wording for a change was not clear or easy to follow. There's a surprise. However, there was agreement that an advertisement for a cost-sharing flight should include details such as the pilot's license. Is it a PPL or what? Medical he's holding or he or she is holding. Is it a Class 2 or P&D? Flying experience, and are they current? What was their pilot recency they put? The CAA was gracious enough to say, we are grateful for the submissions received and acknowledge that the majority of stakeholders who responded are against our proposed changes. We have decided to revise our final policy position. So they've put forward a revised bit of wording to the Department for Transport, who actually makes the legislation. But it looks like they're backing off that aspect of it for now.
That's interesting, isn't it? And it will be interesting to see what the cost-sharing platforms have to say about that, because we've been on before and they were not happy with the way things were going. So it would be tough for the CAA or the DFT to turn around and go, okay, we've listened to what you said and we've ignored it. We're going to do this anyway.
Yes. They did, I mean, also they did have a commentary section for respondents to say things, and they did say the CAA should police it a bit more thoroughly. So if the CAA suspects what's known in the business as grey charters, it's actually a charter, not just a cost-sharing flight, then the CAA should go after those grey charters, which means getting involved a bit more rather than just doing a blanket banning legislation.
It's one of those things, isn't it, where the CAA used to do this. I'm not going to complain about the CAA too much, but many years ago, sort of 20, 30 years ago, there was kind of there probably still is an annual review of all fatal accidents. And it was quite often followed that the CAA would review fatal accidents from the year before and then almost create regulations in order to I don't know what. Oh,
that's the picture you showed about cost sharing.
That was my finger. Anyway, basically, they were in a bit of a loop where they were kind of creating regulations for the people specifically who tended to ignore regulations completely. But those of us who complied with the regulations were getting clobbered with all these things that were addressed to a bunch of people who would ignore them anyway. And so I think that's one of the things with grey charters. The CA should really focus on catching those people up. Right. Moving on. That's enough CA bashing for at least the next 35 seconds. I don't know. Hey, my news story. I'm not even sure about this news story at the moment. So you've seen it reported elsewhere in other places like Aviation Online and the Telegraph. It would appear, it is suggested strongly that Britain and Norman are in the process of appointing an administrator. I don't think, as far as I can tell, they actually have appointed an administrator yet. We've certainly asked them and not had that reply back. But the Telegraph is reporting that the Civil Aviation Authority were responsible for issuing a winding up order against Britain and Norman for an unpaid bill of about 36k, presumably for some airworthiness work of some kind. Who knows? But that's we are trying to find out more. We're trying to find out more, or Dave's trying to find out more, I should say, on a kind of like to actually ascertain the facts, rather than just being anywhere else.
At the moment, it's second-hand reporting, and we like to get some facts rather than just rely on that.
We're old-fashioned like that.
It's also trying to avoid defamation and libel.
Talking of which, no, I'm not going to go there. That's another story entirely that I may tell you one day, but not tonight, that's for sure. Right. Oh, I think it's you again, Dave.
It is me again. Yeah, this is about a French company called Beyond Aero, who have just made the first flights of a hydrogen electric powered aircraft. So it's got a hydrogen fuel cell, which supplies 2/3 of the electricity to drive the electric motors hanging on the front. And the other third of it is battery powered. So I guess the battery is there as a reserve in case the fuel cell doesn't deliver for whatever. So they've made their first flight. I think we've got a little video, haven't we, Ian?
We did have. Where's it gone?
It's going well tonight.
We have a little video. We couldn't run the whole video because it was too long, so I had to get in and do some rough chopping up of it. But you missed the bit where where the square-jawed test pilot looks at his Seiko watch like this, things like that. So you just have to imagine that. Anyway, here's the video.
Yes, so yeah, there's a question here from Sky Driller. I'll just show you that. And I know the answer to this because we were a bit puzzled about what aircraft it was. It looks very much like a Zen Air, but in fact, it is, as Sky Driller said, it's a G1, which some might say, not us, is a rip-off of the Zen Air. Zen Air, Zenith, the company, actually do say it's a rip-off. But yeah, we haven't said that. Yeah, it's just what they say.
Just reporting it.
Just reporting
It's
yes.
interesting. The airplane they're hoping to make doesn't really look very much like that. It looks like this.
No, that's right. Their hope is that this G1 microlight thing is just a proof of concept, like proving the concept works. This is what they want to build, which is a 6 or 7 seat business aircraft. They're going to take a certified airframe. They haven't said which one it is, and I don't quite recognise it at the moment. But it's anyway, they're going to take that and power that by the same technology. And apparently, doing it this way, they get a range of 800 miles, so they reckon. Interestingly, you know what sort of test pilot in there? Paul Prudent. His name is Paul Prudent, which I think is a brilliant name for a test pilot.
It is, isn't it?
Very good.
Captain Prudent.
Captain Prudent. Yeah.
Okay. I've got Dunkerswell Goes Electric. An Aerovolt charger has been installed at Devon's Dunkerswell Aerodrome. Electric cars will also be able to make use of the facilities by using landside charging points with the Aviation debut of a new energy storage system called Ally. In addition to that, Dunkerswell will also have an electric Pipistrel Velis available for trial flights at a price of £165 for a 30-minute slot.
Wow.
I think it's a really good idea to have the charger that you can charge your car as well as your aeroplane.
Indeed.
Yeah. I think Ed was saying, because Dunkerswell isn't on the sort of like high power grid that has lots of those angry pixies that go down, it kind of like trickle charges and stores its power in a bunch of old used i3 batteries or something.
That's right. Angry pixies.
Sorry?
Those things that make electricity work, whatever they are.
Oh, those angry pixies, yeah.
They're the Cornish ones.
Yeah, no, not the Cornish ones. Anyway, we were getting slightly ahead of ourselves. We kind of missed out Annabelle's little news story in there. But that's
we did. Yes. So, unless you've been living in a cave for the last few days, which actually might not be so bad, because at least it'd be dry, you will have seen that there is an amazing property that's come up for sale. So this is a 5-bedroom house that not only comes with a hangar, but with a 750-metre runway that is described as a private international airfield and 75 acres of land. It's a snip at £4,750,000. I have to say, though, that given the fact it's located in the Cotswolds, that actually does seem like a really good price. Mm-hmm. If the stamp duty wasn't just over $500,000, I'd be putting an offer in on that, I reckon.
Really? You're only $500,000 short.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
just another pandemic and a stamp duty holiday. I'll be right there.
Yeah, see, if you have a look through if you go to the news story on the web, you can click on the brochure and have a look inside. It does look like a pretty nice house, I have to say. And the idea of the 750-meter runway, as well as being well drained, apparently I don't know how long it is, but has a tarmac starter to it, so you've got a chance to get a bit of power up before you have to deal with that pesky grass. So
yeah. We could probably say it's also the inspiration for tonight's fantasy hangar, which will be coming later.
It is.
Yep.
Dan Smith, I'll chuck you a $5.
Yeah. Okay. Jolly good. Where are we now? Is it me again? Yep. It is me again. So it's news. I think it's the right picture. That the Goodw Scholarships are open. So get yourself over to the Goodw website, apply for some scholarships. These are being made in the name of Rob Woodward, quite possibly the nicest man that you could possibly have wished to meet in the past in aviation. An absolute gem. So it's only fitting that these scholarships are in his name. I believe there are 4 of them. So please go over and have a look. And if you're not in any need of a scholarship, then be proud and donate to the scholarship for next year's ones. Another curious little news story, as it were, that we haven't managed to get any hard information on. Apparently, which now owns Beechcraft, has paused, is the word they're using, paused taking orders for the venerable Baron and Bonanza. Bonanza, the longest, is the aircraft that's been in production, uninterrupted production for the longest. And apparently, they only, if you look at the gamma figures, they only sell, they sell something like 8 or 9 a year of each, I think. Pretty low numbers, and probably not enough numbers to keep a production line going. But if you were to order one now, well, you can't order one now because they won't take your order. If you'd ordered one when they were still taking orders, then that would probably be I think the end of 2025 or 2026. So they're clearly using the space for something else. Nobody really knows, and Textron certainly aren't saying this, that the order book might not get opened again. But it's hard to report that fact without thinking that that's at least a possibility, isn't it? And that would be be a bit of a strain. But you can kind of understand it. You know, it's a historic aircraft, but you can't really afford to keep a historic aircraft going for 8 of them a year, I would imagine.
It's a shame because the Baron, as we know, because we flew him to Friedrichshafen a couple of times in a Baron, the Baron's an absolutely lovely aircraft.
I bloody loved that Baron. It was just such a nice aircraft, and I don't. Can you imagine what life would be like if you had that Baron in that house?
Absolutely. Yep.
I'd be pretty hungry because I wouldn't be able to afford the free food.
I would like to say, well, I could afford it until about next Wednesday, but I can't even afford it full stop until next Wednesday. But if I could, it would be amazing. It would be worth it for a week almost to get. That's it. At the end of it, I have nothing left, and now on the streets. Right. Weird stuff.
Yes. So this is a relatively new slot for a live stream. Just plain weird. So this week, sorry, Andrew, we have news that the Airlander 10, or the Flying Bum, has started the type certification process. Hybrid air vehicles say they'll be able to produce up to 24 aircraft a year. And this leads me neatly on to introducing this week's guest, Andrew Barber. Andrew Barber is head of airworthiness and a flight test engineer for hybrid air vehicles. With a degree in aeronautics and astronautics, Andrew spent a number of years in the car industry, culminating in his own sports car manufacturer, and has worked for 7 aviation companies, including hybrid air vehicles. He was flight test engineer for GameBird and for Airlander. Andrew has a PPL, has flown in various countries in Europe, and has 140 hours in the Airlander simulator. Thank you for joining us, Andrew.
Well, Andrew, thanks to Annabelle for the introduction. I'm going to be asking the questions to begin with. So, Andrew, let's start at the beginning, because you've had it sounds like a really interesting career. You started at the beginning, you had a degree in aeronautics and astronautics. I guess that's spaceships, is it? Yep. And then spent 2 years with Rolls-Royce, but moved to the dark side. You went to concentrate on sports cars with Lotus, and then founded your own company. Why'd you do that?
Well, poor careers advice and poor careers research, basically. Because when I left school to go to university, obviously I wanted a sponsorship, being a working class lad, not landed gentry. So of course sponsorships only come from big companies. And if you ever looked in, as I did, for most of my teenage years, read aircraft magazines, all you heard about was British Aerospace and Rolls. British Aerospace used to make aeroplanes. I don't know if anybody knows that. They used to be interested in aviation. And what I didn't realize, I very rapidly found that I do not like working for large organizations, even ones as awesome as Rolls-Royce, who make, the finest jet engines in the world. I still say that 30 odd years after I left the place. I do not fit into large organizations. And I didn't know there were any small organizations in aviation. So having, during the course of university, also become a petrol head, as well as an avgas and kerosene head, I went off to try and work for small car companies instead. Eventually, as has been hinted, setting up my own. I think Annabelle, did I send Annabelle a picture of the car? I can't remember. Any road up. And it was only when the car company went bust in 2003 and I couldn't find another car company to employ me. I started to realize there were small companies in aviation as well, and I ended up, and it was quite useful because our boy was quite small at the time, and I got a job 3 miles from home with a company that did soft furnishings for airliners, basically. I thought, why didn't I ever leave aviation? And I've been there ever since. So yes, I started in aviation, got the best training you could possibly get with Rolls-Royce. Long before things like SMS were invented or anything like that, they said to us, some old boy, probably about the age I am now, said to us in our first 2 days induction, 17th, 18th September 1984, said, and I think this might still be true 39 3/4 years later or whatever it is, no Rolls-Royce engine has ever killed a fare-paying passenger. And that has stayed with me forever. And that's my attitude to aviation. Is that the other one about my attitude to aviation? Just do stop me because I do get full Ronnie Corbett. Is when we had our heavy landing with the Airlander at the end of flight 2. I was the log keeper. And it was just like in the pictures, everybody else runs to the scene of the crash, except me and the test director, because the test director is on the radio directing operations, and I'm the log keeper. So I'm sat there writing, basically sitting on my other hand to stop myself leaping up because my job is to write. And after what may have been 2 minutes or may have been 20 minutes, and I could see the 2 pilots, Simon and Dave, helping with the recovery exercise, I suddenly realized the whole bloody thing was being broadcast live on the internet by about 300 people along the airfield boundary. And I turned to the test director and I said, somebody should call their wives. They were both straight males with wives. I could modify that sentence in future, hopefully. And I never, ever want to say somebody should call their wives ever again. No. Basically, my final mantra that I give to people when I'm training is, if we fuck up, people die. And you're all aviators, you get that, I think. But be amazed how many people don't.
So after you had your re-entry back into aviation, you started working for several companies. We'll come on to Airlander in a minute, but you worked for several companies, including GameBird, where you were a flight test engineer. Now, before we go any further, we kind of know what a test pilot does. He flies the aircraft. But what does a flight test engineer actually do?
All the rest of the work. So I came to FTE very late in life. That was actually my first FTE job. And when I did that, it was 2015. So I was just 50. And I wasn't quite 50, actually. What the flight test engineer does is prepares all the flight test cards, which are basically the step-by-step process for doing it. And either on the flight or in the control room. And on GameBird, it was all done from the ground. We didn't have a control room. It was me sitting at the side of the runway with a pair of binoculars and a radio and a camera and a notebook, and grabbing the card out of the AFIS when it landed. So the flight test engineer does all the flight preparation, basically reads out the test card so the pilot can concentrate on flying, makes all the notes, analyzes the data, or at least gets the data and passes it on to the people much cleverer than me that analyze the data. So it is basically a development engineer's job, which is actually where I started in Rolls-Royce in 1988 when I graduated, because I realized that I'm not clever enough to be a boffin, and the fun bit of engineering is testing. I spent the last 20 years as a certification engineer, but the only bits that I talk about are the bits of certification that involve setting fire to things, crashing things, or flying things. Crashing things deliberately, as in when you do seat development, or setting fire to them deliberately, as in when you do seat development. Because the interesting bit of engineering to me is testing. So flight test engineer, it's got everything in it. It's got the three things in it that I want to be. I'm doing today the job that I've probably wished for, not specifically in airships, because it never occurred to me. Although there were skyships flying around quite a lot when I was this age. I couldn't think of a better way to spend the last 15 years of my career, probably. I intend to stay there until they boot me out, basically, because they're bored of me.
So,
and yeah, go on.
So this job is the big one, literally, because Airlander is a pretty big thing. You're not just flight test engineer, but you're also head of airworthiness.
Yes.
With today's announcement that you're about to, the company, Hybrid Air Vehicles, is about to start the type certification process, you're going to be very, very busy for the next few years.
Yeah, well, at the moment, we're quite a small company. There's only about 60 of us. And as soon as we get the magic money tree, there'll be more like 600 of us. So at the moment, we're all doing about 4 jobs. And my day job is head of airworthiness, which is basically running the certification department. But that's basically a paperwork job. It's quite interesting because you get to poke into lots of other people's pies. I'm a generalist, not a specialist. But when we were getting the prototype back into flight in 2016, after we'd bought it back off the Americans, they paid us a broad brush. They paid us $100 million to build it, and they sold it back to us for $300,000. So we like the American taxpayer. We like them a lot. Any rotor. So my job was to get the thing its permit to fly, and there'll be a lot of people on here who know about getting permits to fly. And we went through exactly the same process as you would if you'd got your home built or your historic or your orphan type or whatever. And I went to the boss as they started doing all the testing in the sheds at Cardington. By the way, it's not just a big aircraft. It was the biggest flying machine on the planet at the time. I think that 6-engine thing that launches Space Strata Launch, I think it's called, is slightly bigger, but it's the biggest at the time. And I went to the technical director and I said, as the certification engineer, I've got to watch all this testing and make records and write reports and stuff. So instead of me standing around watching, why don't you give me a job on the test team? And clearly he recognized an over-enthusiastic idiot. Gave me a job on the test team. And eventually I ended up going flying on the thing. I'm one of only 5 people ever that have flown on an Airlander. Only one person has ever actually piloted one, but there have been 4 different flight test engineers.
I think we have a picture of you actually in the cockpit.
Seems entirely likely that would be one of my favourite pictures.
No, that's a GameBird one. No. Okay, let's go through these pictures because I can't actually see what they are. And
would you like some help?
That's
the one on the Airlander. That's a capture from a video camera. So that is the person flying, the pilot flying. Well, there is only one pilot station on that aircraft. So this aircraft was actually built as a UAV, hence the rather crude flight deck, which is just intended for flight test. And then it was going to be a UAV. So the pilot flying is Dave Burns, who's flown more types of airship probably than anybody alive. He's the only person that's ever flown an Airlander. I was the flight test engineer for that. November the 16th, 2017, and pretty much still smiling about it. Probably the last flight ever out of Cardington as well, although we didn't know that at the time.
No. So, I mean, I understand the Airlander, one of its secrets, if you like, is the fact that it's not just an inflatable, lighter than air airship. By moving forwards, the shape of the airship actually causes lift and allows it to fly. So it's a bit different from an ordinary airship, isn't it?
It is. In fact, our marketing people really don't like me calling it an airship, but for the CPL side of it, because I get involved in the ops side of it a lot as well, for the CPL and for the maintenance, licensed aircraft maintenance engineers, and for the certification, which is my day job with the type product certification, it's an airship. However, what it is a lifting body airship, which we call a hybrid aircraft. So all airships, even your traditional cylindrical airship, generates lift. You've all passed the theory of flight exam for your PPLs. You all know that anybody moving at incidence through the atmosphere generates lift. The reality is that all airships operate very slightly heavy. So the Zeppelin operates between about 200 and 400 kilos heavy. So it has a mass of about 10 tons and it has a weight of about 1/4 of a ton. They get that other 1/4 of a ton by flying it with some alpha. And you can actually fly them at quite big alphas. The Americans had a ship called the ZPG-2 in the 50s and 60s, and they would fly them 3 or 4 tons heavy with landing gear, with wheeled landing gear, and they would take off and land just like airplanes with a cylindrical ship. And all we've done is basically produced a lifting body shape. You'll all be vaguely familiar with lifting bodies. So Space Shuttle is, broadly speaking, a lifting body. The thing that Steve Austin crashes at the beginning of $6 Million Man, one for the teenagers there, is a lifting body ship. And basically, it's just a very stubby wing. So when you're flying it, you're flying a wing exactly the same way as you do an aeroplane. So alpha plus power gives performance. Difference is actually because the thing is so buoyant. So the thing has a mass of about 50 tons, has a weight of about 5 tons, give or take. Obviously, the weight changes as you burn the fuel, as it does with any other fuel-burning flying machine. And you just fly different amounts of power, different amounts of alpha. The big difference is because 90%, broadly speaking, is supported by the buoyant lift rather than by the aero lift. You can forget about faffing around with the throttle. If you want to fly at 50 knots, you set, broadly speaking, 50% power, 55, something like that. You set 55 and you fly straight and level. And if you want to climb, you pull the stick back and put the nose 15 degrees up, and it goes up at 15 degrees up, about 800 feet a minute at 55 knots. If you want to come down, you point the nose down at about 5 degrees. It comes down at about 500 feet per minute at 55 knots. It's absolutely awesome. I've been putting a sequence of power pilots through it over the recent months. And when they go into a turn or do a maneuver, they reach for the power levers.
This is on a simulator, yeah.
In the simulator, yes. I have just forget it. Just set the power and leave it alone. It's absolutely fantastic. So
it's different to land on an airship because you have to aim it at the ground and increase the power, don't you?
Well, you only have to fly it down if you're flying light. In other words, if it is trying to go up like a party balloon does. Otherwise, on the Airlander, but any aircraft that's got heaviness, you fly it down. It's just that traditionally an airship has very little heaviness. But if you stop going forward, you stop creating lift, so you come down. You just come down very slowly. I mean, the Airlander, we basically fly it like an aeroplane. We take off and land, broadly speaking, like an aeroplane. There are flight profiles I can do that give it very short takeoffs. Because when you tell people you've got a 100-seat aircraft, you need about a half-mile field, they say, yeah, but can't we have an even smaller one? So I've been working on techniques to do much shorter takeoffs, which will need to be proved in real life. But broadly speaking, you come off the mast, you apply full power, the aircraft accelerates. If you've trimmed it right, it just flies itself off. The instruction that I give to new pilots is put your hand near the stick, but don't touch it until it leaves the ground. When it leaves the ground, you just fly the pitch attitude that you want. And then you fly a normal visual circuit to land, and you fly down the approach. And we set the simulator up because we're doing scientific testing rather than actual pilot training at this stage. We fly a 3-degree glide slope down the pappies in the sim, and the only thing is you don't flare. It has an interesting characteristic that the last 50 feet it wants to, if you watch the videos you can see it, There's plenty on YouTube and what have you. The nose wants to come up. It's just an aerodynamic effect. So you actually check forward for touchdown. It's a little bit of a thing to overcome, but you actually check forward for touchdown. As the rad-out goes through 50 feet, you go from holding the nose up to just checking forward to land about 1 degree pitch attitude. And the target landing vertical rate at landing is 100 feet per second. 100 feet per minute. Sorry, 100 feet per minute. 100 feet per minute.
That was the second landing, 100 feet per second.
100 feet per minute. It's absolutely fantastic. You're coming down a 3 degree glide slope with about 30 knots ground speed. So you're desperately trying to do sums in your head because the smallest number on an instrument plate is 80 knots, I think, off the top of my head. So you're desperately doing arithmetic in your head to try and get a quarter of 550 feet per minute to get a 3 degree glide slope. But basically, we put people in it who are already pilots. The people who get it best are usually Hercules pilots. We've had a number of Hercules pilots in it, and they just get it instantly. We've got a guy at work, actually, who's a very low hours 3-axis microlight pilot, and he got it straight away because he said, but this flies at all the same speeds as my microlight. So he got it. Fast jet pilots don't get it at all. Takes them a lot longer. Helicopter pilots broadly get it. But I can put in any pilot and talk them around one simple visual circuit with the aircraft in the middle of the flight envelope, which is about 3 tons heavy with about a 12-knot wind. So I can put a complete amateur in who's never touched an aeroplane in their lives and doesn't even know which way the stick goes, and I can talk around about 50% of them to a survivable landing first time. Obviously, that's a benign point, but go on.
I have a couple of questions sort of inspired by some of the things in the comments, but I'm going to get my questions in first. Presumably, there isn't a VNE that you're ever going to reach.
VNE or VMO, strictly speaking, is 75. But that is probably above a speed you will achieve. But at the moment, this is all simulation and calculation. But yeah, there is a VNE just as there is with any other aircraft or a VMO, and it's 75.
And in terms of, I guess if you're coming back to the mast, we don't need much of a crosswind. But in terms of wind limit for operations, because it's looks like a bloody big thing to me, and it's going to be affected by the wind a bit, I'd have thought.
Yeah. So it's 97 meters long, 320 feet. The first one was 92. 302 feet, I think. It's about 40 meters wide and about 30 meters high. So it's big as a big thing. But of course, although it has 50 tons of mass, it has potentially almost no weight. So you don't fly crosswinds. So our perfect airfield is Henlow or Halton or Netheravon or Middle Wallop or a push, but it's on top of a cliff. Husbands Bosworth, somewhere like that. So basically, we want a World War I flying field, about half a mile across, a bit less. Half a mile is for nil wind at max weight, and you take off and land into wind, because it's just safer that way. And in terms of launch and recovery, we're promising 30 knots maximum launch and recovery, which is not unlike the crosswind limit for a 737. I found out quite recently. We might squeeze a bit more out of it. The Americans certainly used to be able to launch and recover ships with only 2 engines, no bow thruster, no vectoring in 30-knot winds. So with 4 engines that vector and a bow thruster, we can probably do better, but we make promises we know we can keep. There's nothing we're promising you can do with Airlander that the Americans didn't do with the ZPG-2 in the 50s.
Given that there are very few World War I style airfields around, what's the possible use for?
So we're not going to operate from normal airfields. We don't want to do that at all. They're covered in tarmac, signboards, sticky up lights, sticky up glide slope indicators, all those good things. So we will operate from dedicated fields. In fact, our biggest customer at the moment, so we have £1 billion I'll come back to that question in a minute. It's a very good question. We have £1 billion worth of orders, and it's testament to this country that with £1 billion order book, we can't find anybody to give us the couple of 100 million we need to actually deliver it. Any road up, they will operate from their own sites because those sites are small. They don't require runways. The aircraft makes almost no noise. So you operate much closer to where people actually want to be. And our biggest customer that has ordered the most aircraft so far, they are pretty keen to operate from their own dedicated sites because they're a short haul operator, and one of their biggest costs, because they do very short sectors, the landing fees that they have to pay are horrific. So we will have our own sites, because all we want, as I say, is a flat piece of land or water. Remember, it's going to be amphibious. So all the operators need is this relatively small space, and all they've got to do is move the big rocks. It doesn't matter whether it's grass or gravel or whatever. You put slightly, depending on what if it's grass, you put fairly soft booties on the bottom of the skids. If you're operating on gravel or concrete or whatever, which you have no requirement to do, you put slightly harder wearing booties on the bottom of the studs. Or it will be amphibious. There's some stuff that we put out on LinkedIn recently of us doing some development testing of the skid shapes. Those of you that know about seaplanes and flying boats will know that the shape of the bottom of the thing is important to getting it on and off the water. So we've now got a shape for that, which works on land and water. So it'd be amphibious on the same skids, land or water.
That's pretty good. Is there a stall speed? There was a question.
Not really. It really doesn't stall. What it's sort of, it's a bit like PA-28. You can just adopt a nose high attitude, and it sort of mushes down because it can't drop a wing because it hasn't got a wing to drop, but it doesn't pitch down. You just apply power, and it just flies away. And as soon as you've got aero, or you switch the vanes on, by the way, the rear engines have thrust deflecting vanes. So if you're flying too slowly for the elevators and rudders to work, you switch the vanes on and switch up on the control panel, and it vectors the rear thrust for you. And you just keep moving the stick, and the stick just feeds in the thrust vectoring, as well as the control surfaces. So no, it doesn't stall. It just sort of sits there. If it's heavy enough, it starts to come down. If you're near the bottom end of the heaviness range, it barely accelerates down because the force bringing you down is resisted by the drag. It just sort of sits there. Coming back, somebody asked about how many ground operations crew we need. 4 is the short answer. Please put aside all visions that you have of hundreds of people pulling ropes. Nobody's done that for a very long time. Zeppelin operate with a crew of about that size if you don't count their passenger handlers, because of course they do joyrides. So Zeppelin, for about 25 years now, pretty much non-stop, have been providing commercial air transport in Europe with a total safety record. It's the most awesome piece of kit. Next time you're in Friedrichshafen, it's about 500 euros for about, I think it's about 3/4 of an hour. And it's absolutely awesome. We managed to blag me a ride last year when they were over here at Damins Hall. 4.5 hours I was up on this thing, and well, it was just a filming detail, so they just took a couple of us up down the back to learn, because there's not many of us, so we're all in it together. It's just awesome. We're over the M25 at 1,500 feet with the windows open, because you have windows that open, and we could hear the traffic on the M25. And a Zeppelin has 3 IO 360s. Which all of you will know, in the front of a 172 or a Maul or whatever will deafen you. Now, I was 4.5 hours flying dozens and dozens of circuits over the top of Brands Hatch. Where was I? Yes, so it's really, really quiet. But no, ground crew, if you watch any video of Zeppelin operating, basically they've got one person on the top of the mast, one person driving the mast, a crew chief, and a sort of a dog's body, and that's it. Because these things have, they have a stern thruster, but they have, like us, so you have engines at vector, so their front engines vector like that, and the rear engine vectors like that, and then they have a side thruster as well. So the rear Lycoming drives two propellers, which point at 90 degrees to each other, and one of them also does that.
Right.
Go watch the video, and they ground handle it with 4 people. Not, as I say, not counting the people who do the thing. So yes, I've already hinted at what happened. So the hard landing, as I call it, I am obliged to call it, but you'll notice that AIB did a report, although we wrote it for them. It was about a 4.5-page report, but we wrote it basically. So what happened was we learned a lot about ourselves as an organisation. It wasn't really the aircraft; it was us as a flight test organisation. We were pretty good. We'd been reviewed by a flight test person from the American Army a few weeks before, and they said, "Yep, you're doing flight test properly." And but we and this is all in the AIB report. Golf Papa Hotel Romeo Golf. Is that we had some problems with some of the ground equipment after landing. So the aircraft had landed and they deployed the rope, which then gets attached to the winch that pulls it onto the mast. Then they had some problems with the mast. And it was quite a thermic day building up. We'd taken off in the morning, unusually, which we were doing the early flights in the evening, as one does. And it was heating up quite rapidly in August 2016. And the pilot said, "Okay, this is no good. I'm going to take off because it's safer to fly around while you sort out the ground equipment." I paraphrase, obviously. So they stuffed the rope back on into its locker and took off again. And they hadn't stuffed the rope back in properly, and it fell out. So the pilot said, "Oh, I've got a rope dangling. How long is it?" 50 feet, they told him. It was 50 meters. So anyway, we were operating across the short length of the airfield. So anyway, we came back. And because he was operating on the short length of the airfield and had found out the hard way by pulling over one of the local, just a very small electricity thing, not one of the big ones, he'd knocked that over. Don't believe the bollocks that was written in the press about, "Oh, that's what caused it to crash," and that clearly it didn't. Really, any of you that ever had anything to do with the press will know, if they write about something that you know about, you think, "Oh, blimey. So what are they writing about the stuff that I don't know about?" Obviously, present company of journalists accepted, Mr. Seeger. So anyway, so the aircraft came in very slowly over the airfield, very near the hover, which it is not designed to do, but we were, and it because of the way the aerodynamics was working that particular day and the atmosphere was moving, adopted this nose down attitude. And the frustrating thing is, if it had landed like that, it would have bounced and settled. Or if it had landed like that, it would have bounced and settled. The bloody thing chose to hit the ground at exactly the wrong angle. And all it did was break the front of the flight deck. The aircraft was actually fully functional. The pilot almost went around and then thought, "No, I don't know whether this is going to stay attached." So he shut down all the engines and brought it to a stop on the ground. So we learned a lot from that the hard way about how we organized ourselves as a flight test team, about how we set what NASA call the mission rules, and about what operating window we allowed ourselves. So there was a lot of learning there, not really about the aircraft itself, but about us as a flight test organization.
Cool. Now, the only minor problem is we're now about 5 minutes over where we needed to be. So we're going to have to quickly rattle through any extra points we haven't covered, Dave.
Yes. Well, we've pretty much covered most of it, I think. We didn't get a chance to talk about your own private flying, but you're also a PPL.
Yeah, I mean, that's the least interesting bit. I mean, pretty much a high proportion of the people on here will have far more interesting. So, yeah, Annabelle. Was it Annabelle or was it Ian? Anyway, I did quite a lot. I've done a few foreign trips, but only mainland Europe until I started trying to learn to fly Tiger Moths recently. I've only ever basically flown American tricycles. I've got an IRR and a night, and yeah, it's great fun. I really enjoy it. There was, yes, Doncaster. Yes, we will be building them in Doncaster. Payload range. It will take a useful payload across the Atlantic. You can ferry it across the Pacific. But what Air Nostrum are going to do with it is basically 2-hour sectors around the Balearics as everyday ferries. Economy prices, 120 people on board, but they'll fuel it once, maybe twice a day. And they'll fly for about 18 hours a day. The aircraft will actually fly for 5 days with a limited payload. That's a military option rather than a civilian one. And yes, we are going to Doncaster, and sometime this month, touch wood, we will say where in Doncaster we're going. But we are going to Doncaster. Cardington is now a housing estate, and the sheds are used for other purposes. So we are basically going to recreate Cardington somewhere near Doncaster.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. That was a great look into the different world of Airlander and flight testing. Thanks very much for your time. So
thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Be time for. Oh, I forgot to change you back to, there you go. Can't have you that big. Hey, fancy hanging. Normally it would be Ed saying, and this week we picked something obscure that I'd already decided what I was going to pick before we decided on what we were going to call it. And sorry, Ed. But this time, inspired by the house, that lovely house that was for sale in the Cotswolds, we thought we'd find our favourite house with runway that we could buy. So, where are we? Normally at this time, Ed says, so who's going first then? And let's have a look at where we got those pictures there. And the first one I have got is from Annabelle.
So I'm going first then.
Yes.
You are.
So I found this enormous property for sale in Pennsylvania. Comes in at just under £4 million, which is a bit of a bargain. So according to the listing, as well as the 3-bedroom main home, there are 2 cabins, 2 barns, a greenhouse and a windmill. More importantly, there is a 3,500-foot grass runway, a heated and insulated hangar with room for up to 3 planes. There are also trails, a waterfall, a river and a pond, which I guess could be extended to allow for seaplane flying as well.
Yes, well, that sounds like quite a lot of money for America. But the other thing is, if you look at all of the stuff around there, it's basically just trees. I mean, if you take off and have an engine failure, no one's ever going to find you again, are they?
No.
Or you could take off and not have an engine failure.
Well, yeah, if you want to be, if you have to be optimistic, I guess you could.
Or we could land in the trees like somebody that we know and just create a little aeroplane treehouse.
We're not going to go there. We're avoiding all legal action we possibly can. Thank you very much. Bev.
Okay, I've got Spruce Creek Fly-In, which is in Florida. It's a hangar home, and it was. That's not it. That's not mine.
That's the one that you sent me, Bev.
Right. Okay.
Okay. No, and no, that's definitely not
the one that was on your link.
Yeah.
Okay, so the wrong link has been copied, but the one that I chose was an English country home, which had a tower, a little bit like a mini Sissinghurst. And I thought I could have a lovely garden with the big hangar that was 30 by 50 with a full bathroom and everything else. It was just perfect. I could sit in the tower, write books, just like Vita Sackville West, surrounded by roses and aeroplanes. Perfect. It's just a shame you couldn't see it.
It's just, how much was it? Do you remember?
Yes, it was 1,395,000.
That's not too bad, is it?
Not cheap. You don't think it's bad. Not for all that. Not for a taste of England with beautiful climate.
I don't know anything about roses, but do they grow in Florida?
Yes.
Not very well, though, I think.
No.
Who knows? Who knows?
Have other things. It doesn't have to be a rose garden. Plenty of other things.
Fair enough. You grow out, Gus. Dave.
So I've gone for somewhere in France. It's a 17th century manor house in the Dordogne. It's got it behind that. See the house? It's a lovely old building. It's got an extensive garaging there. It's got the current owner is a classic car enthusiast. That's a Jaguar 140 you can see down in there. And the airstrip is the other side of those trees, and it's shared with the local community, but local flying community. But there it is. It's got a hangar, and it's right there. It's in the Dordogne. Brilliant. The price is just under £2 million. The house has been renovated, French country house style. There's a little bit dark wood everywhere, too much dark wood everywhere for my taste. But of course, you can paint all over that, can't you? So.
Good, excellent. Well, maybe I've got your house, because I was looking and I couldn't actually find one. The rule was that we had to find one that was available in the classifieds, and I couldn't find one of these. But sometimes you get someone builds like an amazing hangar with like super shiny floor and lovely polished airplanes, and then in the back of it, just in the corner, they've got a little apartment. They didn't really bother with the house; just put an apartment inside the hangar itself. That's what I was looking for, but I couldn't actually find any of those for sale. So I went to Spruce Creek. So Bev will be neighbours. Spruce Creek, the biggest flying community in the world. I think 1,200 houses or something there. So is that the one you chose?
No, but it's very similar. You've got the tower in the middle, haven't you? So yeah, it's very similar.
Yeah, I didn't show a picture of the interior because, to my taste, and taste is a very personal thing, so I'm not passing any judgment here, but many of the American houses have interesting interior taste that isn't for my taste. So I kind of left that one out.
I wrote a few off because of that.
Yeah, I kind of looked at it and I just found myself going, there's so much work to do inside. So I kind of, and mine was on sale. To be honest, it didn't show the hangar. The hangar's around the back. It kind of doesn't look as good as the front of the house, to be honest. But 1.75 million, so a bit more than yours, Bev, but not too bad, I thought. But there was a time not that long ago when you could buy houses at Spruce Creek for a couple of $100,000. That would have, we should have bought a whole bunch of those from Flyer in the early years, borrowed just loads of money in.
Yeah, I just like the towers. It's the towers that do it for me.
Is it? Yeah. That one looks okay from the outside. I thought I could
sit in the windmill on my 370-acre property.
Yeah,
that'd be a nice little tower for you.
That would do.
This is the kind of place where you can't afford to forget the milk or something, isn't it? You're just like so far.
Probably a Walmart just south of that picture.
Probably.
Little.
So what have we got here?
I have just found a picture, which I think may be Bev's one. So I don't think it's great quality. That's the only thing. So where do I put it? I've just uploaded it. Talk amongst yourselves for a second while I upload.
Okay, well, let's have a quick look through these comments while we get in there. So we got a Dave Wins here by the Wheelie Plane Bloke. Stayed in the Cedar Lodge Eagles Nest in Florida, 3,000-foot runway and a lake for seaplanes. That's jolly. Dave's got we got another Dave Wins there. Very, very. Yeah, that's okay. No one minds that. Dave Pay, Derek Pay, of course. Oh, who's playing with those? What happened there? There you go. If only Glenforter had a hangar. Glenforter famously for sale at the moment. If you want to buy a hotel, but no hangar. Dave wins. So my wife wrote Pooh Corner off because of the interior. Ed wins, clearly. That's probably Ed. I'm waiting for Ed to burst in and win. I'm sorry, Aviation Steve. I don't think that's going to happen tonight. Yeah, Dave, should be kilometres rather than miles, as it's in France. I did actually have a good look for somewhere in France. I had a look to see if there was anywhere for sale on Atlantic Air Park or Vendée Air Park, and I couldn't really find anywhere. And I could have. There's a place called Verschoc. I don't know if anyone's been to Verschoc, which is just inland from sort of Calais, Le Touquet area. And they have really nice little houses there and a really nice restaurant. So if you clear customs at Calais or Le Touquet, you can pop into Verschoc for lunch by air.
Right. Here's the one is this yours, Bev?
That's the one. Yes, see, it's very similar. Got the tower in the middle.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No pictures of the interior, sadly. So
no.
I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing.
Probably. Yeah. Who knows?
Short taxi ride, anyway. Short taxi ride to the runway.
Yeah.
All good.
I think
Jane, the runway at Spruce Creek. Sorry.
The thing about Spruce Creek is it's incredibly well organised. And in fact, as are all of these American air parks, you just literally just taxi out. There's a hangar attached to the house, and there's a taxiway that takes you to the runway. They are very well organised.
There's a last minute free of Bev wins here, although I think someone got the wrong end of the stick because Jane said Bev because it's in the UK. No, it's at Spruce Creek.
I had this in the bag. I had this in the bag a second ago.
You did, but unfortunately, Bev pipped you to it. So as a guest presenter, I think we're going to give the award to Bev tonight. Well done, Bev. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, there's a Bev definitely wins. Thanks, yeah. Good. Right, Dave, have we got any events going on?
Well, there's not very much going on. There's a Gasco Safety Evening on the 19th of March at Wickham, and Pilot Careers Live in Madrid on the 16th of March, should you be anywhere near Madrid.
I will be. So come say hello.
Yeah.
Or come and say hola. That'll be even better. So anyway, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you both for joining us. Thank you, Annabelle, for joining us. Thank you, Dave. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Not much flying going on tomorrow, but maybe Sunday. Hopefully see you Wednesday if you're a member for the Skype stream. Otherwise, next Thursday. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Excuse me. I'm just going to switch over here now because Ed's not here. There you go. Closing screen and then the end stream.